All right. Ladies and gentlemen from all over the world, welcome to the most anticipated LinkedIn Live before NADA. And hello, everyone that is broadcasting in from the United States, from Israel, from all over the world, from your tiny devices and cell phones. We are excited to have a conversation with you today. Uh, we have some esteemed guests on here today, so I'll give you guys a quick introduction, then you'll hear from some of them as we go through the show here. We have Mike DeChico, who is on from Fullpath. He is our VP of Business Development. Zach Hendricks, one of the most well-known people in automotive, and we're happy to have him on board, Director of Automotive at Invoca. And if you don't know who Alan Crutch is, well, you might have been living under a rock for the last 10 years. Uh, he is on from FUSE Autotech. My name is Mike from Fullpath. So to give you guys a few updates and kind of what we're going to go over today, we have some exciting stuff to announce as we get ready to kick off the NADA circuit here in a few weeks. I'll give you guys kind of a quick snapshot in core. We'll give you a sneak peek into the brand new Integrations Hub, of which our two esteemed guests are on here. They are some of our partners that are in the Integration Hub, and then we can talk about what to expect next. Also, if you have been living under a rock, the world of acronyms has been going crazy as of late. The three-letter word of CDP is a very hot topic of discussion. And I know as we head into NADA next week, we have a ton of meetings with our dealer partners, our OEMs, and our agency partners as well. But I just kind of wanted to level set real quick and just kind of give everyone like what are the core assets of a CDP. And I think it's important. I guess the easiest way to say it is the know before you go. And one of the big things that you want to do is basically consolidate and look at all of your data into a central hub, right? So what this allows you guys to do is to basically have a single view of your customer, which is a core aspect of a CDP. And I would say that if you cannot do a single view of a customer and integrate all it in, I wouldn't necessarily say that would be a true CDP because you need to make sure you can push marketing events into the actual customer record to see kind of what's happening. And as that is building, you can look at how they're interacting, whether it be payments on the site or if they're making a phone call into the dealership, which Zach will get into here in a little bit, which obviously is much more than forms being submitted on the site. So how do we track all the information and pull it into a single view of a customer to basically go and dictate the next marketing action to be that much more relevant? Because as we know, we now have to market and sell cars now instead of taking orders. So how are we being that much more efficient with our spend? Are we spending it in the right channels? Do we know what customers are doing? Are we hitting them with the right message when they're actually in a certain audience? And that's kind of what it allows you to do in the CDP world. And then as we're going to be talking about this here is the marketplace integration is like how many data connections can I consolidate into the CDP to feed it with the information to say this is what is happening, or I'm taking the data from another provider and pushing that in to actually consolidate and unsilo all of my data. It's really, really important, especially as we go into the next year and beyond. We're starting to see more and more partners and vendors start talking together. And again, our two friends on from Fuse and Invoca, you really are pushing the boundary and creating this open ecosystem to say, hey, we want to work with you and we want to connect the data to provide better intelligence to the dealer. So it's really powerful. And I think at the end of the day, and I think we'll talk about this a lot next week, is like the evolution of CDPs. I would say it goes into two phases. One is, can I connect and push all of my data into a single system? And can I unsilo that data to now, as we move to the next phase of now I can look at all my first party data, whether it be CRM and DMS, put them into audiences. Now, what can I do with that, right? And to close the loop on that is the next phase is really going to be the business intelligence aspect of it to say, because I have all of this great data, now what can I do with it? How can I enable my store or my salespeople or my BDC to now say, here is all of this great information. Now go do something with it and or build it into their native environment to now arm them with the information instead of just picking up the phone and dialing for dollars and whatnot. So just a little update on that. But I think one of the really big things that we have is none of this is possible without the connectivity between data. Now, within your own ecosystem, and also with some of your valuable partners, and we'll get into some of that here. But one of the things that we're super excited about to roll out at NADA is our integrations hub, and this will be going live here soon. So if I hop out of this and go into a live account, basically what we've built is that we have now in the back end of Fullpath on our platform is you essentially have an app store, and currently right now, and this is growing, and we have a lot of conversations, and Mike DeChico and the team will kind of talk about this, but we have over 196 integrations. So in the back end, or excuse me, 197. And I'll let Mike D talk about this here in a second, but now in the back end, you can go in and see from website to DMS to CRM to inventory to payments to ad platforms, call tracking. Now we can actually go in and actually just make these connections natively within our platform to pull in the data, which only makes your CDP that much more powerful. So I'll pass it off to Mike Chico real quick, which has a ton of experience this with his previous role at dealer.com when he built their certified partnership program. So Mike, what are your thoughts on this and care to share a few drops of knowledge on this?
All right, yeah, knowledge drops, I guess. I guess the way to look at this is if you're sitting in the dealer seat is there's probably 10 or 15 of these companies that you're actually already working with that you don't have connected to your CDP. So, for example, if you're a Fullpath customer, we're connecting this stuff for you, right? But when you think about all the things that you're subscribed to that are supposed to help you sell cars, are any of those things talking to one another and working in unison? The likelihood that that's like 100% true statement is pretty low, right? But I think what we're doing with the hub here is really trying to bring all of these integrations into one place and really create that seamless data layer between the dealer and all the vendors that they work with. It's been really interesting, and you guys probably have the same perspective growing up in automotive through our careers. It's always been like a walled garden type of thing, right? Like, oh, well, we don't necessarily integrate with that company because in this one area we compete with them, or over here we compete with them, so we don't really necessarily want to integrate. We think the time for that at Fullpath is over, right? It's time for everybody to start playing guitars around the campfire and singing Kumbaya and saying, do we really want to do the right thing for the dealer? And if we really do, then it's time for us to integrate in a meaningful way where the dealer can actually benefit from and leverage the data being shared across all of these systems that they're paying for. It's also really important to know that we 100% believe that the data in here is the dealer's data. So don't listen to somebody if they say, oh, you need to pay for this integration, or you need to make sure that they're going to play nicely with us. We're going to play nicely with everybody. Everybody in the playground thinks that we're the coolest kid with the best toys, and we know that, right? So we want to make sure that everybody that we play with, we're going to take their toys and we're going to make sure that they get used as often and as most beneficially as we possibly can. I'll get off my soapbox now and let these guys talk about it, but this is what has been missing in our space for the last 20 years. It's just nobody's talking to one another. We all have these great conversations with companies that we're talking to. I'm speaking as a dealer now. You're talking to a million different companies that are going to change the world for you. If those companies aren't communicating and integrated together, it's very difficult to get the full benefit from it. So anybody disagree with that on this call? I'd love to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But, that's where we're going, right? And so, we've been working with Zach and with Alan, obviously, for a long time at FUSE and Invoca. And We'll start out on the Invoca side of this because 9 out of 10 interactions that happen at your dealership are happening over the phone. What better data source could you possibly have than what's coming out of the consumer's mouth, right? But what are you doing with any of that information? If you're an Invoca customer and a Fullpath customer, we're integrating this for you, right? We're pulling that data into the customer journey, like Mike said, which is really important, and we're leveraging that data to make advertising decisions to help your salespeople have more informed outreach because we'll know was that customer a heater, right? Am I picking up the phone and the last interaction with that customer wasn't very good? I want to know that if I'm the person picking up the phone, right? All of that information can be tied into one singular customer record. So any future customer that talks to that consumer or any future employee that talks to that consumer will have the full picture. It's just like when you're calling tech support and then you have to reiterate your problem to the next person you get transferred to and the next person you get transferred to. How frustrating is that, right? It's like the worst experience. So we're trying to eliminate that by including call tracking and conversations in the customer records so your people can have better outbound conversations because they have the knowledge to be able to do that. Now I'll shut up and let Zach talk about this, or whoever's up next.
I would say before we hop into that, and we're going to go into it here in a second, but I would love just from everyone on the call is like, why do you think that we've been put into this situation? Luckily, we're starting to climb ourselves out of it, but like, everyone's been in the industry here for a while, but why is it that we've created such a walled garden environment in automotive?
Fear of market share, fear of somebody else. Oh, if we work with them, they're going to take our customers, or they have a thing that we don't have. It's fear.
Yeah. Zach or Alan, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's another dimension too. I agree with Mike, but I think there's another dimension that many of the systems that dealers have used over the years, these legacy systems, were really invented in another time when that was the common view. We're going to have a walled garden. And they're built on software platforms that weren't built for sharing. And so I think when you look at modern software like Invoca is building, like Fullpath has built, like FUSE built, that's built on this modern architecture with a modern attitude. I mean, we are API driven as a company. Everything we build is built to share. And I know that's true with Invoca and Fullpath as well. So there's a whole new attitude in automotive technology. And I think that's why we see dealers aligning themselves with those type of suppliers. I know in my days as a marketing manager, my biggest frustration was I'm paying two vendors a lot of money every month. Can't you guys cooperate and make something really great for me? Oftentimes the answer was no, but that's changing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Good point. Let's make data great again.
Easy now.
You can't say you can make anything great again, I guess. You just like that. That's
I know.
a no-go
like
phrase.
They've taken that one from us.
Yeah.
No, they've taken that one from us.
I guess I won't wear my Make Data Great Again hat at any time. Zach, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel the same way. One based on fear, one based on just legacy tech, right? I don't think it was the intentions from the beginning of the older platforms to build these walled gardens that would prevent customer data from being transferred. But it's gotten there, right? Now we're there, and now it's time for change. And so I don't think anyone disagrees that an open platform or ability to pass data, albeit or deploy data in real time, is going to be not only a challenge for these tech partners, but we're really just building products for the end customer.
Yeah, and I would say and we'll hop over to Zach's stuff here. But one of the interesting things that Invoca has is primarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys work with players not just in auto, but you work with a lot of very large players outside of automotive. And we were having the first conversation. It was it was pretty refreshing. Where we're like, oh, we should have this conversation. And you just said, yeah, go to this link on our website. Here's the API documentation, and you just take it and you plug it in. So I know you guys have a really, really strong platform. So I'll kind of pass it off to you to talk about kind of, what we're doing and what you guys are seeing and why that's important to actually pass the data from, what Mike said earlier. I think the average form conversion rate, it used to be 2%, but I think it's going down to like 1.5%. So a lot of really, really important data is going over the phones, which oftentimes is getting missed or it's sitting in that individual environment. So I'll pass it off to you, Zach, to kind of talk through some of the stuff that you guys are doing with us.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate it. Alan, I promise I'll save some time. They've got me on a very strict time limit here because I tend to ramble and get excited. Yeah, I think one of the exciting points, though, is that we made prior is we're building products for our customer's customer. And that's exciting to me. That means every single day that we wake up and have communications with OEMs or dealers, we're solving for the neighbor, your coworker, your family member who buys a car every single day. And so that's what gets me out of bed is the ability to have better conversations with those people that are buying cars in our communities every single day. And a part of car buying is communication with dealerships that support massive infrastructure of our communities. And so when it comes to communications, phone calls are still at the very top of the list of quantity of communications that are being between a consumer and a dealership. And so when we think about phone calls, historically, we've looked at call tracking as a way to satisfy how we manage the quantity of phone calls, or we've really indexed a lot around sales training in the automotive industry for how to better handle phone calls. I think there's more sales trainers in the automotive tier 3 vertical than there are cryptocurrency influencers on TikTok. So it's good news, right? So now we need to have systems that can talk to each other, that can deploy this data at scale. And I think when we think about phone calls historically, as marketers or as salespeople or management at dealerships, we think like once a phone call happens, our job is done. And the reality is there's a ton of data that can be standardized and deployed through partnerships like FUSE and Fullpath and Invoca, where we can start to pass things that happen pre-call, pass things that are happening during the call, and pass things that happen after the call. So what that means is better marketing, more refined or intelligent attribution, which I think is misused and overused in our space, and there's new definitions for that. And then last but not least, after a call ends, how do we take action prescriptively on what conversationally happened on that call?
Mm-hmm.
I would look at Invoca, if you're new to Invoca, as the evolution of call tracking, albeit a conversation intelligence platform. So let's show you a quick example, and then we'll show you an example of how the Fullpath and FUSE integration works with consumers. So nearly everyone that's a consumer starts their search on Google. Now, the cool part about starting your search on Google is you don't lie to Google. Think of Google in some ways as the God that you pray to. You're not going to go to Google and say, hey, I'm having pain in my knee, and then expect results for a headache. Mm-hmm. And so the reality is what consumers search on Google gives us a pretty good stone to step on when we're passing that information down to dealerships. So if you click through a little bit, this is a Kia dealership specifically. What Invoca is grabbing is the keywords associated with the caller that they searched prior to calling the dealership. We're grabbing the campaigns and the click IDs associated with it, as well as the landing page and the web journey that consumer took to get to a phone number. Think of it this way. The number that consumers dial these days is not as important as how they found it. So Mike mentioned we work outside of automotive, and I'll share a quick example outside of automotive. If you have TV in your house, chances are you've got a streaming application or you're contracted with a cable provider. Now, if you want to cancel or change those providers, Googling cancel my DirecTV is a very different phone call than add HBO to my DirecTV. Mm-hmm. Those callers should be sent and treated differently, and they should also be attributed differently back in marketing, or else we're just going to be sending endless amounts of retargeting to people who have said, I don't want this anymore. So let's continue a little bit here. On the automotive side of the house, what we're passing over to Fullpath also includes pertinent caller information. So there's abilities to update customer data without Fullpath ever receiving it. or ever having a knowledge of that on the advertising side of the house. So your phone number has essentially become your social security number now, and we can grab information or enhance those caller profiles that we're sending back to Fullpath so that they can deploy marketing data around it. Last but not least, Invoca as a call tracking agent is scoring these phone calls at the individual agent level or salesperson level. As a multi-location business that supports large groups across the nation like AutoNation and Subaru and others, our goal is to segment that down to the individual level or down to the individual person that's handling the call. After we analyze this call, both what happened pre-call and what happened post-call can be sent back into Fullpath to be deployed. Now, the next slide shows an example of that where prior to the customer ever interacting with a Fullpath advert or the dealership advert, Invoca is getting a phone call into an AutoNation store for a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now, the customer had to Google the phone number for that, called in from the GMB, and what ends up happening is we're passing that call data or pre-call data back to Fullpath to then be used in marketing. So now Fullpath has insight and can actively deploy the right message at the right time to Harris, who's this customer here, and serve up an ad that's most relevant based on the phone conversation. So you can see here Fullpath did that, and it ended up with a conversion on the Stellantis Smart Widget side of the page. That is our entire goal. I'll give you one more example. Today's Wednesday. Many of our dealer clients are getting phone calls for appointments for the weekend. Between now and this weekend, several of those people will have set appointments. Now, the goal is to stop marketing to those people or send them more relevant messaging. So in real time, we can change messaging, change audiences based on what consumers say and do over the phone, not just what they do with us digitally. So that's the entire goal really with Invoca and Fullpath is combine what happens online to what happens offline when the consumer ends up picking up the phone and call.
Yeah, that's super cool too, Zach. Like if you think about the example you just used about Wednesday setting appointments for the weekend, think about the volume of calls for service appointments, right? It's probably 10x at least, right? So now if you've got service campaigns running, but you know that people have booked service appointments because of the phone data, you don't have to advertise to those people, or potentially you switch up to message to, service reminders. So really, really cool stuff that you can do when you have that data. Suppression is something that's often overlooked, but can save a bunch of money.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would say like the integration on that. I mean, first of all, it's the amount of stuff that you guys can do in terms of scoring and tracking all the keywords and everything. I mean, that is super powerful. If you look at this on the CDP side, is that now all of that is just making everything that much smarter. Where in terms of like, this conversation where the person called in on a particular, ad, and then what the conversation actually was, we took that metadata from the conversation and actually used that to dictate the next marketing action. So, it's super, super powerful in terms of like using that integration to actually have connective tissue between the two, which I think is kind of, where we're going. And I spoke about this a year and a half ago at the first ASOTUCon is that, if you look at these two providers out in the industry between Salesforce and HubSpot, I mean, you can onboard data back and forth between those guys within, 4 or 5 minutes, not even have to talk with anyone. And what you guys are doing, Zach, is just, it's so cool in terms of how you guys are leveraging that information and actually pushing that in. And you guys took the leap with us first when Mike reached out to you. So, thanks for being a great partner and also, like I said, having the tech to actually push data across and actually have it be tangible. So very, very cool.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Speaking of advertising, Alan, I think we're in a little bit different environment now than we were a few years ago, when we were taking orders and we were calling on dealers and saying, hey, we don't have enough inventory and offers. What do you mean? I don't need to do offers. I need to charge more than what is on my site. So, I think what you guys have is really cool because you guys have taken a little bit different perspective of actually leveraging the automation side of it, not only just on the actual payment side, but then also displaying and then injecting that into an ecosystem. So I'll pass it off to you, but I think what you guys are doing right now is so important, especially in today's environment with, floor plan, expenses going up. But I think it's just such an awesome platform that takes the manual effort out of it and connects the dots. So I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Mike. We've had just a great relationship with Fullpath. It goes back a number of years, and our companies are really deeply integrated with each other. We make a couple of products. The first one that I'll give people just a little familiarization with is our FUSE Transact product, which allows a dealership to sell a car from one screen. So assuming you start most sales in the CRM, either with an in-store visit or with a lead that comes from a website or a third party, we start with the CRM, and then again, all on one screen, we move to desking, where we're showing multiple payments from multiple banks. From there, again, on one screen, we're going into credit application, credit approval, and compliance. We're then going into a menu system where aftermarket and F&I products are presented. We go into a digital signing ceremony, and then this whole sale is pushed seamlessly into the DMS with no double entry. Now, most dealers right now are probably thinking, yeah, to do all of that stuff, I need to log into 3, 4, 5 different systems. And what we've done is build a point of sale system so it's on one screen. Our business is about super accurate payments, maximizing dealer reserve, and finding the best offer for the customer. So the product that we work most closely with Fullpath is called Dynamic Payments. If you want to move to the next slide. And Dynamic Payments, what we do is we take every piece of inventory the dealer has, and then every night we look at every program, every term, every bank, and we find the optimal offer. And then with Fullpath's help, we publish that on the dealer's website. And so here's what FUSE and Fullpath are doing together. We're answering the question that every single customer that comes to the site has, which is, I've been researching cars, I found a model I kind of like, but I wonder if it fits into my monthly budget. And by the way, I don't want to give you my name and address and email. I just want to look at cars and get an accurate monthly payment so I can decide if this fits into the family budget. If you go to the next slide, Mike, this is really the core of how we work together. We take all of these integrations, and I'm not going to bore you with every detail of this eye chart, and then again, move to the next slide, Mike. What we do is we take all of those monthly payments, all of those different options on every vehicle in stock, and we send that to Fullpath every night. So as a dealer is using Fullpath to drive their marketing, they're using marketing that has accurate payments on a VIN level, and if that car sells, it's taken out of the rotation and a new car is substituted for that. I'm going to mention that this is going to become super important with FTC CARS rule. And although that rule is now being litigated, I can almost guarantee you the FTC is not going away. And one of the things that is important in those rules is that you can't advertise a car that you don't own that's not for sale. And so because FUSE and Fullpath share data, we know every car that's in stock, we know every car that's been sold, and we're able to help Fullpath put specific payments on those advertisements and update it every single night. That's the end of the story. I'm almost out of breath. Thank you, Mike.
Nice. I'll say just because I've been working with you guys for a long time. I think if you look at the dynamics, and Alan, you were a marketing director for a while, as was Mike DeChico from way back in the day. When you get offers, how many places, I'm outside of Fuse, if you're just doing this manually, let's say you publish lease or finance offers on your website. Without Fuse, how many places do you have to go in and update those payments to make sure it's accurate within all of your advertising channels?
Yeah, it's too many to count. And of course, they're never consistent, they're never accurate. And that's why most dealers end up with this terrible speech they give consumers because they don't have the technology, which is, oh, yeah, that offer's on our website. Not really sure where that came from. Or I think we sold that car. And that
Yeah.
just breaks down the trust and the credibility of a dealer rather than saying those offers are the same wherever you see them. And if you want to buy that car, it's on the show floor, it's ready for sale at that payment.
Yeah. Yeah, I would also, oh, go ahead, Mike D.
I was just going to say it's super. I mean, we're definitely in like a little bit of a dork out session here because this gets me going. Like, think about like
We're
how
going to
all this
Dorktown.
connects. Yeah, going to Dorktown. So like, think about how all this like fits together, though, right? So you've got like, so Fullpath can be the hub to pull the data together. But what Zach has, he's got all of this really fantastic information coming directly out of the consumer's mouth about what they want to do and their intent and all of this stuff and their sentiment and how they're feeling about everything, right? We connect that to the customer record with all of the customer's activity online, right? So what vehicles are they looking at? How often are they looking at them? What particular trims? Everything. Then we include Alan and say, oh, for all of those, we have all of the payments ready to roll. So if you're sitting in the BDC, you can make a phone call to somebody, and we can literally deliver to you. Here's who you're going to call. Here's why you're going to call them, and here's what you're going to say, and here's exactly the payment on all the cars that they're interested in. Hello, 2024. Like, that's pretty cool. You know, like that is really cool. I mean, how could you not sell a ton of cars if you actually had the information when you picked up the phone? It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think this is a really great thought, Mike, because what we're seeing dealers do now is they're combining not just lead generation marketing, but demand generation, which is, in the case of demand, giving the customer the information they need to move along the journey and transact and buy a car. And that's a cool thing. And it's a really cool thing if you're a consumer to get that kind of helpfulness and transparency. And that's, I think, how loyalty is built for dealerships.
For sure.
Yeah, I would say like the just on the payments thing, I would challenge anyone out there that if you look at an ad and it's a payment based ad, if whatever offer is in that ad and you click on it and you drop on a BDP, I would challenge you to send me an example of where that exact offer is where you land the customer. Right?
Now, most of those clicks go into a black hole. The car doesn't exist.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that it's just like if you think about, and I would say like as we go into NADA, like one of the things that dealers need to really be looking at is like how efficient can you be, right? Is my dealership being efficient? Mike just went over a really great example of like using that information to be tangible to actually be more efficient, meaning if I'm going to make 40 calls a day and I'm a BDC agent, I would rather have someone be way more efficient and make 20 calls a day and have much better conversations instead of just trying to rack up numbers. And that's where you really pull in this information. It's a different mindset. It's a new, there's new metrics for people to be looking at. Like, I'll give you an example. How many of my IDs were resolved on this month? What percent of my first party data is active, meaning are we actively working those customers? Are they actively on my site? Where historically what has happened is that, you look at, call it 30 days of a lead follow-up process, and all of a sudden, hey, they're not going to buy, and then all of a sudden they're just collecting dust. Where you take what Zach is doing, that if someone makes a phone call, you can now see that that person is active. So the measurement and efficiency that we're going to have, and it's going to happen. Like if any, the providers in our marketplace, I would say that, reach out to integrations@fullpath.com. I know Mike is having conversations with lots of providers, but the ability to make you that much smarter is so powerful. And I would say the efficiency of which you can operate is really, really powerful and will make you that much better. So anything else, any closing thoughts here before we hop off? And then we'll talk about the
just that if
party.
you're one of those dealers like Alan just mentioned, where it's like I'm paying this guy a bunch of money and I'm paying this guy a bunch of money, and why aren't they talking to each other? Get yourself a CDP, will you?
Yeah. Here, here. Here, here.
All right. Go ahead, Alan.
Well, I'll jump in right ahead of you and invite people to this super cool party we're having on Thursday, February 1st at NADA. It'll be at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. The name of the party, the event, is Shaken Not Stirred, and there's a reason for that. It's being held at the Vesper Bar. And back in the James Bond novel Casino Royale, that was the name of the first martini that James Bond ordered. And it was named after a Russian double agent. And so we're having the Shaken Not Stirred party at the Vesper Bar. You'll be able to order a Vesper cocktail. This takes place from 5 to 7, so you can go there before you go to the NADA event at the Sphere. It's a perfect way to pregame. The Cosmo is super groovy. It's one of the best hotels in Las Vegas. The bar is terrific. Zach is going to be doing magic tricks and giving out balloon animals, I think. But we plan to have a lot of fun, and you're all welcome to join us at the Cosmo at the Vesper Bar.
Yes.
I'm still trying to figure out what secret agent chic, outfit I'm going to wear. So
I think we'll just go with black hats. We'll go with black hats, Zach. That'll be the one.
Tuxedo T-shirts.
Yes, there you go. There you go. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks everyone for hopping on. And I would say, we're super excited to connect with everyone next week at NADA. Make sure you get your pregame at our happy hour, and then head over to the Sphere. Get a little lubricated so you can have some conversations. So we're super excited, and also make sure you stop by our booths. I believe Invoca is right next to us. Alan, I believe you're right in the general vicinity as us as well.
Yep.
So we're super excited to see everyone next week, and make sure you guys stop by. And we'll see you guys in Vegas.
See you in Vegas.
Later,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.